You ever get that itch to really feel a city? To go beyond the postcards and the usual tourist traps and kind of connect with its actual rhythm.
Oh, absolutely. It's about finding that authentic vibe, isn't it?
Okay, so let's unpack this because we've been digging into a travel guide that points us right towards, well, what it calls the creative pulse of Manhattan, Chelsea.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I think, is how this guide frames Chelsea.
Mm.
It's not just like a list of sites.
No.
It's presented more as an invitation,
Yeah.
you know, to experience this specific kind of urban energy where the art history sort of meets the contemporary buzz.
Exactly. That blend seems key. We're talking like tons of art galleries,
Hmm.
a food scene that sounds amazing, and even at this, a park that seems to float above the city.
Right. It sounds pretty unique.
So our mission here in this deep dive is really to pull out the absolute must-knows for anyone wanting a stylish and I think a really rewarding experience of Chelsea.
Whether you're just like popping in for a day
Yeah.
or using it as your base camp for exploring more of NYC.
Precisely. So first things first, I guess. Where do you stay?
Right. Accommodation's always key. And the guide lays out a pretty diverse mix of hotels in Chelsea, each with its own distinct personality.
Okay, let's start with the big one, maybe. Hotel Chelsea. This place sounds less like a hotel and more like a storybook.
Doesn't it? The guide really hints at these legendary tales inside its walls.
Right.
Punk rock history.
Yeah, Whispers of Warhol, even. It's clearly targeting creative souls and history lovers. That paints a picture, right?
It really does. Like, a place steeped in the city's cultural history may be a bit bohemian.
Definitely.
But then in contrast, you've got the Highline Hotel, which sounds like this interesting mix. Old world Gothic charm, it says,
Oh, yeah.
but combined with modern boutique luxury. That contrast is pretty cool.
And it's right by the High Line, I assume.
Exactly. Big plus. It just shows, even with just two hotels, the range Chelsea offers, from history buffs to people wanting something sleek and modern.
Totally. And then there's the Maritime Hotel. That one leans into a nautical theme.
Yeah, cozy. Cool is how they put it. And it's near Chelsea Market, which is handy. Sounds quite charming, maybe a little quirky.
Okay. And for maybe the remote work crowd?
Ah, yes. Selena Chelsea. The guide pegs that as chic co-working meets social clubhouse.
Right. So that's definitely aimed at like digital nomads and solo travelers, people who need workspace but also want to connect.
Makes sense. And then finally, there's the more, which sounds more about refined design.
Yeah, a design lover's dream.
Oh.
Small, sleek, understated luxury.
So yeah, just looking at where you could stay gives you a real feel for the variety in Chelsea.
It really does, which kind of leads to the next question.
Hmm.
What do you do there? How does the neighborhood deliver on that promise of, creative energy?
Okay, let's get into the things to do. And you
Mhm.
basically have to start with the High Line, right?
You really do. The guide calls it an urban park in the sky.
Which is such a great description.
Isn't it? With Hudson views, public art that's very Instagrammable,
Huh.
apparently.
Huh. Naturally. But it sounds like a must-do. Such a cool reuse of old infrastructure.
Totally agree. It gives you this unique viewpoint on the city itself.
Mm-hmm. Then there's Chelsea Market. That sounds like a real hub.
Yeah, buzzing. The guide mentions specific food spots like Los Tacos Number One.
Ooh, good tacos are always a win.
Right. And Seed Plus Mill, I think, for tahini and halva.
Great.
Plus just, shops selling everything from spices to sneakers.
Sounds like a food lover's paradise, but also just a cool place to browse.
Definitely. And they give that great tip, visit mid-afternoon on a weekday if you can.
To avoid the weekend crush, yeah. That's solid advice. Practical stuff like that is gold.
It really is. Okay, what about art? Besides the hotel history.
Well, there's the Whitney Museum of American Art. That gets a big mention.
The building itself is pretty striking, isn't it?
Yeah, bold architecture, they say. Plus, rotating exhibitions focused on American art. And apparently, a rooftop terrace you shouldn't miss.
Rooftop terrace with city views. Sold.
It seems like a major cultural anchor for the area. And speaking of its architecture, it's got that interesting cantilevered design connecting back to the area's industrial past.
Oh, interesting connection. And for gallery hopping.
Right, the guide points you towards 10th Avenue. That's where you'll find the big international galleries.
Like David Zwirner.
Yep. Gagosian, Hauser and Wirth. The heavy hitters are there.
Okay. But there's a catch, right? With timing.
Crucial tip. Many, if not most, are closed on Sundays and Mondays. You have to plan around that if galleries are your main goal.
That's exactly the kind of insider knowledge you need, isn't it? Saves a lot of potential frustration.
Absolutely. Changing tack a bit, there's also the Joyce Theater.
Ah, for dance.
Exactly. Contemporary dance. The guide calls the performances intimate, electric, and world-class. So it broadens the cultural offering beyond just visual art.
Nice. And what about Little Island? That sounds intriguing.
Yeah, part floating sculpture. That description really grabs you.
It does. Sounds kind of magical, maybe for like a quiet moment or a nice date spot.
Could be perfect for that. A sunset date or solo journal session, the guide suggests. It sounds quite different from the bigger Hudson River Park.
Right, which is also there. How do they describe that one?
More traditional, maybe. A quiet contrast to the city buzz. Good for jogging, biking.
Or just chilling by the water, watching sailboats. Sounds peaceful.
Definitely provides that calmer green space
Right.
element. And one more thing for shoppers.
Oh, yeah.
The Chelsea Flea, described as a vintage treasure hunt.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. Vinyl, retro stuff, quirky collectibles.
Seems like it. So, yeah, really diverse mix of things to actually do.
It really does paint a picture. Okay, so all this exploring
Yeah.
is going to make you hungry and thirsty. Let's talk food and drink.
Yes, and the guide does a good job here, kind of categorizing places by vibe and cuisine, which is super helpful.
Okay, break it down for us. Brunch.
Cook shop,
Yeah.
apparently the place. A serious brunch scene, so the advice is go early.
Noted. What about something lively?
Chouquette. Middle Eastern, fire-grilled dishes, and a party atmosphere. Sounds fun and delicious.
Yeah, that does sound good. What about more classic retro New York spots?
Well, there's the Empire Diner. You know, that iconic exterior.
Hmm.
But the food is supposed to be quite refined now.
Ah, okay. And wasn't there something in the Hotel Chelsea itself?
Yes, Cafe Chelsea. Like a Parisian bistro, but with a New York edge, apparently.
Nice. And any late-night lifesavers?
Copelia. It's a 247 Cuban American diner. Perfect for that comfort food fix at, well, any hour.
247 is always good to know in NYC. Okay, how about European flavors?
Chiquito for Basque. Pintos, small plates and Spanish wines. Sounds like a bit of a hidden gem.
Ooh, pitexos. And tapas.
Tiapol. Capa's heaven, they call it. With a cozy, candlelit vibe.
Sounds romantic. Italian?
Rana Pastificio.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a solid choice for a cozy, authentic Italian. So you've got
Wait.
quite the European tour right there.
You really do. Any rooftop bars mentioned?
Gallo Green. It's supposed to have these fairy tale garden bar vibes.
Okay, that sounds unique. And any interesting fusion?
Porcelain. It's Korean American, and the guide highlights their killer cocktails.
Killer cocktails are always a plus. Wow, okay, that's a lot of choices. The variety is pretty staggering.
It really is. It feels like you could eat somewhere different every night for weeks and still not cover it all.
Definitely. Now, besides just where to go, the guide also had some practical tips, right? The pro tips for actually navigating Chelsea.
Yes, those little bits of wisdom that can make a big difference. The most basic one. Chelsea is best explored on foot.
So, comfortable shoes are non-negotiable. Got it.
Absolutely fundamental for NYC in general, really. And then there's the reminder about the art galleries.
Right, the Sunday, Monday closures. Worth repeating for art lovers.
Definitely. Plan your gallery visits for weekdays or Saturday.
And the Chelsea Market crowd warning, too.
Yeah, reiterating that weekdays, maybe mid-afternoon, are much more relaxed than weekends. Makes the whole experience better.
Makes sense. And they also position Chelsea strategically, don't they?
They do. They point out it's a great base for exploring nearby areas, like the West Village.
Hudson Yards, meatpacking district.
Exactly. So you're not isolated in Chelsea. It's actually a convenient launch pad for seeing other cool neighborhoods.
That's a really good point. So considering all this, the hotels, the art, the food, the vibe, who is this guide really for? Who would love Chelsea based on this?
Well, the guide itself is pretty clear about its target audience, which helps frame everything.
Yeah, it lists them out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Art and culture enthusiasts, obviously.
Okay. Food and wine travelers, too, given the restaurant scene we just discussed.
LGBTQ plus explorers are mentioned.
Right. Chelsea has a significant history and presence in that regard. Also, people looking for romantic getaways.
I can see that with places like Teopole or maybe Little Island at sunset.
Yeah. And solo travelers, places like Selena seem geared towards them. And finally, just people looking for long weekend escapes.
So quite a broad range, but maybe looking for something with a bit of style and substance.
I think that's fair to say. It connects back to the earlier points, like if you love art and history, maybe Hotel Chelsea calls to you.
Or if food is your main driver, you're mapping out meals from Chelsea Market to Chouquette. It caters to specific interests within that broader, stylish traveler profile.
Exactly. So connecting back to where we started, Chelsea, as presented here, isn't just another neighborhood. It's this curated experience, right?
Yeah, thoughtfully put together, aimed at travelers who want something engaging, something authentic, perhaps, beyond the main tourist checklist.
Right. So summing up, Chelsea really does seem to live up to that creative heartbeat idea.
It feels like it offers this stylish, accessible way to experience a really vibrant slice of New York, whether it's the art, the food, or just the unique atmosphere.
Definitely a compelling mix.
Yeah.
And, exploring Chelsea like this through this guide's lens kind of highlights how mixing history and culture and modern life,
Yeah.
how that can create somewhere really captivating.
Yeah, that blend is powerful.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about other places,
Hmm.
maybe even in your own city or town. Where do other seemingly different things come together to create something unexpectedly cool and unique?
Huh. That's a good question. Like, what other curated blends are just waiting out there to be discovered?
Exactly. Maybe that specific mix is the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Something to think about.